Okay, so my name's Amanda. The talk's in 3 bits. There'll be some research findings, a discussion from Tim and Zahida, and a bit on the tech build. So we did some stakeholder interviews, some questionnaires. We've got 942, and we're a third of the way through the user testing. We've done this over 3 field sites around 3 venues: Arts Depot in London, Warwick Arts Centre, and Brewery Arts in South Lakelands. And together they are nationally representative in that they cover all 6 of DEFRA's classifications of urban and rural dwelling. So today I want to share with you some of our findings and what you need to know about the 65 plus arts and cultural attendees. So I'm going to tell you about the 4 A's of our silver service. Firstly, attendance, patterns and barriers to participation, appetite for creative risk, amiability, in other words, social media usage in their ecosystem, and affordability, i.e. ownership and use of digital devices. So the audience agency has personas that relate to the 65 plus, and they include the right things, but they're really hard to build or design from in order to be socially and digitally inclusive. So straight away we created 4 personas in progress, which is the top line. From the questionnaires, we refined the 4 personas to 5, making a few changes. We could now embed the digital champion into each persona with the data that we had. Plus, we made 2 types of typical attender and expanded the low to non-attender with the adjacent one. This is the unpredictable attender, those who have no clear attendance pattern. So we built these personas looking at the frequency of attendance to work out just how little or a lot this age group is attending and why that might be. So out of 4 general barriers that our stakeholders suggested, we found that transport issues are the biggest barrier, with physical mobility being the smallest barrier. This was also the case with all field sites, with attending on one's own and financial reasons being statistically less pronounced as barriers. And out of 4 venue-specific barriers, time of event was the most significant barrier to attendance. We asked what type of arts and cultural events are they interested in, and they said that the top genres are theatre, cinema, classical music and visual arts, and this data was more or less the same across the 3 field sites. Early on, we thought that we'd follow the trend of designing a digital tool with a comment section, especially for the 65s, but in July 2014, the Saga Zone, an online community, was shut down with legal issues ensuing. So we rejected the blogger approach for this project, not for all projects, but this project, in terms of the feasibility of sustaining and moderating the comments. So on to a bit about 2 separate questions. The over 65s verified that social connections was not an important aspect for going online. It's only 6.2% that said that. Making new acquaintances online was also the least appealing internet activity for them. And our recommendation was to incentivize booking online with offers and discounts so as to encourage the digital novice to book online. And we also considered how that might strengthen their social bonds by way of sharing bookings data with friends. And as Linda said in a recent interview, she's aged between 65 and 69, and I'm paraphrasing her here, "I spent my life knowing who I do and do not want to know." So, affordability. There's an argument that designing an app for the over 65s by combining the 2 top pink highlighted figures for touch devices, namely smartphones and tablets. And we've chosen to design an app for touch devices for all, but designed for the 65 age group at heart of all of the development, and very much with disability impairments and conditions being key. It's an inclusive approach, but it's not an easy choice. In user testing interviews with the over 65s, what attenders and non-attenders said they owned did not mean that they did not understand how to use it, what they didn't own, particularly smartphones and tablets. For instance, we found that those that said that they did not own a smartphone or iPad were able to use them because a relative or friend owned one, of which they occasionally used. And all attenders interviewed were able to navigate, search and contextualize each section of the app. We'll show a little bit later on. So a little bit about affordability. What I can tell you is that if the bit on the left shows it geographically and the bit on the right shows it by the frequency of attendance, and that's gone into each of our personas. So here's a compelling question. Do we target the over 65s with offers and discounts, or do we consider them as donors and patrons? In other words, which way does the money flow? These are harsh questions to ask and should never be an either-or consideration, and there are a lot of complicated elements to do with concessions for the over 65s, which are beyond the scope of this project. What I can tell you is that online discounts is by far the most popular feature for booking online for the over 65s. And just finally, if you want to know more about our research findings, we have a panel on the 21st of October, sorry I'm plugging Rohan, open to the public for discussion, so please do come along. So over to Tim and Zahida.
So our original application said we aim to explore older people's views and practical uses of online media, digital technologies and arts social participation opportunities in order to develop learning that would help arts marketing specialists increase attendance and participation by the over 65s through the use of innovative digital marketing tools. I've had to go back at various points and remind ourselves of where we started on this journey. We wanted to look at social exclusion and how to get older people attending the arts more, but we started to realise that there are limitations to what digital tools are going to be able to achieve. And for some of the most socially excluded respondents to our survey, the sort of 75 plus people in care homes, giving them a digital tool wasn't necessarily going to get them to come to the theatre. So one of the interesting outcomes in this journey was that we decided to set up another project to respond to something that we felt we probably weren't achieving within this one. And we've approached the City Bridge Trust to run an engagement project that will run alongside the work that we're doing here to get people from the care homes coming out and to the venue. Whether they'll be using the app that we're developing in the venue, I don't know at this point. Thankfully, on Friday, I heard that we've got to the next stage with that application. It's just an interesting sort of sub-outcome that I thought I'd mention, really. Facilitated transport and social eventing for those people. One of the elements that we chose to try and drive social inclusion was looking at something that we currently do when we're getting our friends out to go to an arts venue, which is the eventing element of Facebook, which was one of the journeys that we went on that will be explained in more detail by you guys.
Okay, so I'm from the marketing department at Arts Depot, and one of the reasons this project is actually really exciting from a marketing perspective is so much of audience development work is focused on trying to make people change their mind about how they feel about theatre and overcoming that hurdle, trying to make them want to come to the theatre. But with the older population, we've got a group of people who want to attend but can't attend for some other reason, and part of that is social. So we've gone about trying to find some digital way of connecting them to help overcome that sort of social boundary. One of the things we looked at was the things that Facebook offers, like eventing, which felt a little bit too public. So what we've developed is invite a friend, and how that works is you can go onto the website or onto the app, and it will automatically generate an email for you. You can personalise it with a message, and then you can send that to your friends. And that kind of overcomes the barrier of opening your address book and having to ring 20 people to try and find somebody to come to the theatre with. We found that a lot of older people are connected to social clubs like WI, golf clubs, but they may not be the kind of people that they want to actually pick up the phone and ring, but sending an email feels okay. And also it keeps it a bit more private compared to public shares on Facebook. Some of the considerations we've had to go through are we have a website already, so we didn't want to duplicate what we have already. We already have a programme of marketing emails that go out, so we couldn't replicate that. In addition, within our website, we have a remind me function where the website itself will send you a reminder about an event that is happening. So when we were mapping out this tool, we knew that the invite a friend sort of had to sit comfortably alongside all of those existing communications. One of the other things is we're a marketing team of 3, and whilst we would dedicate time to developing this app, we wouldn't have the resource to expand the marketing department. And the aim of this is actually to roll it out to other venues. So when you're going to other venues, you can't be going with a product which also requires so much human resource that they need to invest in that as well. So these are kind of the key considerations. Some of the outcomes are automation. So these the app will draw content, images and text from our existing website. And also the emails that are generated will be generated automatically without the marketing departments actually having to create something every time. Amanda mentioned offers and extras. So we've actually been through a mapping exercise with our programme to see where we can fit in these additional promotions. So we've come up with a list. So things like cafe promotions, discounts at local restaurants, free Q&As with visiting companies, adding things like tea and biscuits for a matinee, free talks and tours of the gallery, or free workshops attached to tours. So rather than looking completely at discounts, what we've looked at is actually value adding to build the experience of when they attend to the theatre. The other thing that came out in the research was that it was really, really important that the experience was hassle-free. So when we've gone to developing the app, we've looked at the key areas that would help them. And one of the things that keep coming up with our venue, and I know with other venues, is the queues for refreshments during a 20-minute interval. That is actually quite a difficult thing for a venue to process that many drinks and food orders, and then have to get the audience back in for the second half. So we've built within the app an automated way of ordering refreshments. There's also a venue guide, so people who are new can easily find the toilets, lifts, navigate their way around the building. We looked at our web traffic and found that Getting Here was one of the most visited pages. So obviously transport is a major issue. So again, we've built a section within the app which has got live public transport timetables in it and other useful information. There's also a section to hold online ticket purchases. So for people who may struggle to remember where they've stored something within their email, they know that it will just sit there in the app, and in a worst case scenario, they can point that at somebody at Arts Depot and click the button and scan it for them, because we would know exactly where it is. And just to kind of summarise really that section is what our hope is that the invite a friend section will help people to expand on their existing network. So whilst we had that feedback saying that that Linda had spent all her time trying to work out who she wants to be friends with and the people that she doesn't. So we're kind of respecting that and saying, well, you've got certain people who are within your existing networks, and we just want to make it easier for you to connect with them. And then when they get to Arts Depot, that the experience they have is just a bit more hassle-free.
Okay, so where am I? Okay, I'm going to tell you how we've implemented the A's of the Silver Service. But first I want to say something about usability testing. Do not assume that tone, tint and colour usability tests are adequate for assuming usability with the over 65s. These are the tests that verify if a website is AA or AAA in terms of accessibility, because many tonal greys and pastel colours, small icons, tick boxes and T's and C's cannot be seen or accurately selected. Many of the animated and interactive text and image elements like carousels are not understood, not just by the over 65s, but in fact some of the stakeholders struggled to make an online booking at one stage or another in our initial testing. So this is the app specific for Arts Depot, and comments from those of the 65 and above living in the vicinity of the venue from North London. So we've interviewed people from London in Arts Depot, and over half of these either were registered a disability or considered themselves to having a condition, impairment or long-standing illness. And their comments have been compiled into a list of recommendations which we've been given to the tech team. So only on this page I'm just showing you what the recommendations were. For example, this is the app's home or landing page, and the user's comments all say that this is not the first page, and so my recommendations were to build a What's On page and make the journey from email and website to app clearer. The app has 6 key elements, which you can see on this page: your tickets, order refreshments, events, travel help, venue guide, and latest offers. So in the app, you can scroll down the events listings Booking and buying tickets were separate functionalities when we did the user testing, but they were consolidated as a consequence of this. So as Judith points out, buy tickets and book tickets means the same thing. Within the ticket section, a digital ticket is held with a QR code enabling people to attend, and a ticket is not needed to purchase. And this is what Judith said. Yes, I haven't got a smartphone. I presume you point it at that and it gives you all the information you need. I never felt that I need it, but once you've got these things, you can't do without them. Amiability. This really links up to the findings earlier that relate to the social media ecosystems of like, share and recommend. Whilst many 65 plus do not get fully involved in this ecosystem, they do invite their friends to attend. And the app enables the user to invite a friend regardless of their age and engagement in social media ecosystems. And here are some of the comments. So John says, hang on, once I've texted my wife for the first time, would her name be up here for the second time that I do it? William says, it is unclear, am I sending this to my son for him to look at, or am I inviting him and buying his tickets? Kenneth said, it could be useful. A friend this morning went to the studios last night, said it was the best thing that they've ever seen and suggested we should see it. Certain friends know what we like. And Judith said, is this intended for a day or two ahead? It wouldn't work on the day. Someone like me needs to advance notice and to steel myself away from crowds in and around the venue. The longer I have to think about it seems to be the secret to getting the events and joining it, which quells the negative fears around phobias, so it would be a useful facility to have. I do that quite a lot for friends, she says, sort of pointing at this. Things I've spotted on the radio, interested things I've seen. How an arts venue is perceived to be amiable and social in the digital sphere is also an important. For instance, here's a quote relating to icons by Patricia, who's a weekly attender that books online. She says, it's telling me what sort of venue it is. If it's family friendly or a live production, I understand this through the icons. Appetite. Here are a couple of quotes, and I'm being a bit literal by appetite now. We're talking about pre-ordering your refreshments for the interval using the app, and John said, that's not a bad idea. I cannot stand queuing for food ever. It's demeaning. We're a rich enough country to not have people queue for food. 84-year-old Rohan, sorry, was the name for anonymity. I don't want my time wasted like a queue in for coffee. I normally pay by card but don't have a smartphone, but I pay by debit card and pay contactless. I carry very little cash. Travel. So earlier I said that travel to an event was the biggest barrier to attending an event, and we have a lot, and I mean a lot of detail from the user testing around travel, and here are just 3 related to public and private transport, blue badge parking, can't say that loud enough, and travel apps. And when we're giving travel instructions for the over 65s, car parking is really, really important, and clear colloquial directions are key. And the final slide is about affordability. As you can see, the latest offers is one of the 6 main functionalities of the app, and here's what Linda said. £1 off is not enough. I'm on a state pension of less than £10,000 per year, which inhibits how you spend your money. So we're going to do more insights from user testing in Warwick and South Lakelands in a week's time on a kind of national picture of this app. But I just want to underline this. Linda not only lives in London, but is a monthly attender of arts and cultural events, earning less than £10,000 a year. So the over 65s do live in the capital, and they aren't necessarily the wealthiest in the UK, but they do value and invest in their cultural capital. Cheers.